let's start with some of the negatives with Khabib, because there's so many positives, and I'm sure any show you're listening to, they're talking about positives. So what are some of the holes I see in Khabib's game? Not many. Probably has the best mindset in the UFC as far as just going in there, believing in himself. He's never lost a round in practice. He's never lost a round in the UFC. He's never lost a round outside the UFC. He's 25-0. He's the best grappler in the UFC. So he has all these things going for him. But the one kind of, I guess if this is a video game and you're playing Street Fighter and you're fighting Ryu, you're fighting freaking Guile, and you look at strength and weaknesses. So his grappling, mindset, toughness, cardio, all that is through the roof. The one kind of spot where you can kind of see where he's vulnerable would be his striking. Not a world-class striker. His combos, his kicks, his head movement, that would be the only knock on him. But when you're that world-class ahead of everybody else as far as grappling, conditioning goes, you can kind of slack on that. I'm sure he's working on it like crazy, but I wouldn't change anything that he's doing. I wouldn't start focusing on my striking if I'm him, because he's 25-0 for a reason. He's beat some really good strikers. That being said, beating Edson Barboza doesn't mean you're a world beater. It doesn't mean you're the tip of the spear when it comes to beating guys. That's a perfect matchup for Khabib, which was why Khabib, if you guys go back and listen to last week, if you're betting on this, was my lock of the century, basically. Of course Khabib's going to win that fight. Edson Barboza has to pray that he catches him. And now people go, well, maybe he can catch him with a knee coming in. He really doesn't shoot like a traditional freestyle wrestler from the States. He doesn't. He closes the gap, doesn't take very much damage, has a good chin, so you're going to have to catch him with an elbow or something like that. Knees really aren't there for you to catch him with. He gets an underhook, goes to work, you go down. When he fought I think I talked about it yesterday on Fighting Kid, when he fought Trejo, he's the NAIA national champion. He took him down 21 times, shot 24 times. Just do that in your living room and you'd be fucking exhausted, let alone inside the UFC octagon, and you go on most takedowns ever in a fight. So with Khabib, the only, I think if you're a 155, you're watching film, you go, all right, his striking kind of sucks. His technique isn't great. I really don't see it. I guess the one kind of chink in the armor that we can go from is Michael Johnson exploded on him and kind of caught him, but then got broke like a motherfucker. Like, there's not a whole lot of negatives when it comes to Khabib. The big thing for Khabib, I thought his moment, I thought he was going to win the fight, obviously, but his moment was on the mic. Because this 155, the lightweight division, is kind of up in there, right? You got Tony Ferguson, then you got Conor just looming over everything. We're kind of just waiting. What is Conor going to do here? Like, let's go, man. You can defend, you can box, but we got to figure it out, because there's not one true champion right now besides Conor, right? But he doesn't defend the belt, so there's that argument. And so I look at this kind of triangle of three. There's only three guys when we talk about 55. There's only three people in this conversation. It's Tony Ferguson, Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Conor McGregor. So it's kind of a weird triangle because sorry, I don't know what's going on in my throat. I'm dying. Not like Callan, but I'm dying. When you look at the lightweight division and you look at these three, this triangle is weird because I think Conor matches up well with Tony Ferguson, but Conor doesn't match up well with Khabib. But then Tony Ferguson matches up well with Khabib. So it's kind of this revolving door where whoever brings it that night, I could see win the fight. Now, I can make arguments for each guy if they fight each other, pros and cons. I can give you a little bit of a glimmer on why this guy win, why this guy lose, stuff like that. But when I just look at it overall, I go, all right, Conor versus Tony. Tony does take a lot of hits. If Tony wants to play that game against Conor, that's trouble. Conor, especially earlier in the rounds, is going to give Tony a lot of trouble on the feet. If Tony decides to just go in there and use his wrestling credentials, he could drag Conor to the later rounds, but still Conor on the feet is very dangerous for Tony. And now look at Tony versus Khabib. It's like, all right, well, Khabib's going to take you down. I don't care what your wrestling pedigree is. I don't care where you come from. You're not Khabib. So you're going to get taken down. Well, for a guy like Tony, when he gets taken down, because it's going to happen when he fights Khabib, it's going to happen. When you get taken down, what do you do down there? Do you try and fight back up like Barboza did? And everyone's like, God, Barboza's so tough. Stand back up. I guess, man. Yeah, I guess that's the one thing takeaway you could give Barboza that fight. But Tony off his back's a motherfucker. Tony off his back is going to be a nightmare for Khabib, because Khabib's not your traditional get on top, pass half guard, look for submissions, look for underhook, darce chokes, guillotines, Kimura, stuff like that. He's kind of stay in your guard, beat the brakes off you, posture up, put his hips into you, beat the brakes off you, ground and pound. Well, for a guy like Tony Ferguson, who's long, can go to mission control, can kind of close his legs around a body like Khabib, control his posture, use his elbows, use his dangerous guard game to kind of nullify Khabib's ground and pound. That fight starts when it hits the ground, which is so interesting to me. And for Conor McGregor, he's not as well versed on the ground, especially from guard on his back when Khabib takes him down, which is why I think the tougher matchup for Conor would be Khabib. Where the easier matchup, none of them are easy, but the easier matchup would be Conor versus Tony. But it's just this revolving door. I see those three fighting. But Conor needs to decide what he's going to do. Great performance by Khabib. When he got on the mic, he goes, man, I'd fight Tony and Conor in the same night, which I believe him. It is refreshing that he's not doing these horrible rip promos from the WWE like everyone tend to kind of fall into this weird kind of pattern to sell tickets. I like that he's keeping true to himself. Does that make you excited to see him fight the next guy? I think his performance should do that. For some people, the performances do that. You don't need to sell it on the mic. So it's refreshing. I dig it. I'm a big Khabib fan. I think now he has a nutritionist and he wants to fight 3 times this year, he said, or 4 times this year. A lot of problems for guys. A lot of problems. But the one knock on him would be his stand-up, but good luck landing on that guy.